Welcome back to our channel, where we uncover the most gripping true crime stories from around the world. Today, we're delving into another tragic and heartbreaking story of Cassie Jo Stoddart, the chilling incident that occurred in Pocatello, a city in the northwestern state of Idaho, shocked its largely Christian and close-knit community, known for its safety and being a gateway to the northwest for over a century. Pocatello has long been a proud home to tourists, travellers and residents. However, in 2006, this city would become the focal point of one of the most horrific and disturbing murders in modern US history. Cassie Jo Stoddart, born just 4 days before Christmas in 1989, grew up in a secure and loving family who cherished her deeply. Cassie Jo Stoddart was a dedicated and straight-A student who stayed out of trouble, had many friends, and was on the right path in life, known for her reliability and trustworthiness. Her aunt and uncle, Allison and Frank Contreras, asked her to house sit and take care of their pets while they were out of town. On the evening of September 22, 2006, Cassie went to their home on Whispering Cliffs Drive in northeast Bannock County. Around 6 p.m, she invited her boyfriend Matt Beckham over. Later that evening, her school friends Brian Draper and Torey Adamcik, who also attended Pocatello High School, visited as well. Cassie gave her friends a tour of the house, and then they settled in to watch Kill Bill Volume 2. Partway through the movie, Brian and Torey decided to go to the cinema instead and left, while Cassie and Matt continued to relax. Suddenly the power went out, making Cassie uneasy. After a while the power came back on, and Matt noticed one of the dogs staring down the basement stairs, barking and growling. But he didn't think much of it. Matt called his mother to ask if he could stay with Cassie that night since she felt unsafe. His mother declined, but offered for Cassie to stay with them instead. Cassie declined, feeling obligated to stay and look after the house as her family had asked. Around 10:30 p.m, Matt's mother arrived to pick him up. Before leaving, Matt tried to see if Brian and Torey wanted to meet up, so he called them, but Torey was whispering, making it difficult for Matt to hear him. Matt eventually decided to go home. 2 days later, on Sunday, Cassie's family returned to their home on Whispering Cliffs Drive. Before proceeding, I'd like to share an important message with everyone. We've been exerting our utmost effort to produce top-notch content on our channel. Despite our dedication over a considerable period, we're yet to reach our initial goal of 1,000 subscribers, with 97% of our viewers yet to subscribe. Therefore, we kindly ask you to consider subscribing to our channel if you enjoy our content. Upon entering the house, Cassie's 13-year-old cousin was confronted by a horrific and traumatizing sight. Cassie was found on the living room floor, having been stabbed to death in a frenzied and brutal attack. The police quickly arrived, sealed off the area, and conducted an investigation. An autopsy revealed that Cassie had been stabbed approximately 30 times, with 12 of the wounds being potentially fatal. 3 days after discovering Cassie's body, the police announced they had made arrests in connection with her murder, sending shockwaves through the tight-knit community. Brian Draper and Torey Adamcik were taken into custody and interrogated by investigators. People were shocked. These were not just classmates, but trusted friends with whom Cassie enjoyed spending time. Both boys were considered social outsiders, but Cassie had welcomed and befriended them. Brian had spent most of his childhood in Utah before moving to Pocatello, where he met Torey Adamcik at Pocatello High School. They bonded quickly over their shared love of film and often used a camera to document their lives, with Cassie appearing in many of their recordings. On September 27th, after hours of interrogation, Brian Draper agreed to lead officers to the location where he and Torey Adamcik had disposed of the items used in Cassie's murder. The recovered items included a pair of black fingerless gloves, several knives, a partially burned mask, a Sony videotape, and a partially burned handwritten note. Police tried to decipher the notes and managed to determine a few sentences, parts of which read, "Is home alone, stop out, the house runs into Torey, we murder. Cassie, Brian chases her, kill her." The horrifying picture began to emerge. This was not a spur-of-the-moment murder, but a carefully planned and executed crime, a fantasy they had been determined to carry out. As the investigation continued, more disturbing evidence against Brian and Torey was uncovered. The pair had filmed Cassie on the morning of the murder while at school, and investigators also found footage of them gleefully discussing what they were about to do.
There should be no law against killing people. I know it's a wrong thing, but hell, you restrict somebody from it, they're gonna want it more.
We found our victim, and sad as it may be, she's our friend. But you know what? We all have to make sacrifices. Our first victim is going to be Cassie Stoddart. She's going to be alone in a big, dark house out in the middle of nowhere. How perfect can you get? I mean, like, holy shit, dude.
I'm horny just thinking about it.
Hell yeah.
The full extent of the horrors Cassie Jo Stoddart experienced that night had finally come to light. During the house tour, Cassie showed Brian and Torey the basement, and before leaving, Brian unlocked the door so they could re-enter unnoticed. After pretending to go to the cinema, they left but later returned to the neighbourhood, parking down the street.
It was 9:50, September 22nd, 2006. We know there's lots of doors. There's lots of places to hide. I locked the back doors, so it's all locked. Now we just gotta wait.
They left the car and donned dark clothes, gloves and masks before heading back to the house. Entering through the unlocked basement door, they cut the power at the circuit breaker, plunging the house into darkness. They hoped Cassie and Matt would come down to the basement to investigate, but when neither did, they turned the power back on. The dog that had been growling and staring down the basement stairs had spotted them hiding. When Matt called to ask if they wanted to hang out, Torey whispered to avoid being discovered inside the house. After ensuring Matt had left, the pair cut the power again. Brian then opened and slammed a door at the top of the stairs, aiming to scare Cassie as much as possible. They terrorised and terrified her before brutally stabbing her to death. The disturbing details did not end there. The police soon found the following footage.
I just killed Cassie. We just left her house. This is not a fucking joke.
I'm shaking.
I stabbed her in the throat and I saw her lifeless body just disappear. Dude, I just killed Cassie. Oh, fuck. That felt like fucking real. I mean, it went by so fast.
Shut the fuck up, we gotta get our act straight.
Okay.
16-year-old boys Torey Adamcik and Brian Draper were charged with first-degree murder. During the interviews, the boys turned on each other. Brian initially claimed that while he had been in the room when Cassie was murdered, it was Torey who had stabbed her. He later confessed to stabbing her, but said he did so under Torey's orders. As the pair went on trial, the small city of Pocatello became the centre of a national media firestorm, with journalists from across the country gathering to follow the case to its conclusion. The court was shown damning video footage, and stunned onlookers watched in silence as it revealed how Brian Draper and Torey Adamcik had meticulously planned their crime and the joy they took in murdering their classmate and friend. One question everyone wanted answered was, why? Brian revealed he was inspired by Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, infamous for the Columbine High School massacre in 1999. Torey Adamcik was influenced by the classic horror movie Scream, which centres on high school students being terrorised and hunted by a masked killer who scares and terrorises victims before brutally stabbing them. On April 17, 2007, Brian Draper was found guilty, and less than 2 months later, Torey Adamcik was also convicted. They were both found guilty of first-degree murder and received the mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole. Additionally, they received 30 years to life for conspiracy to commit murder. Their life sentences could be reviewed following the Miller v. Alabama case, which declared mandatory life sentences without parole for juvenile offenders unconstitutional. Since their sentencing, both have filed several appeals against their convictions, but none have been successful so far. Initially, they were sent to Idaho State Correctional Institution. Adamcik was later transferred to Saguaro Correctional Center in Arizona, while Draper remained in Idaho. In the years following the murder, Brian and Torey have appeared in several documentaries about their crime. Torey Adamcik was also interviewed for an episode of the true crime show Justice, where he was suspected of stabbing a woman to death in her Pocatello home 2 years before Cassie's murder, though DNA evidence eventually ruled him out. The police gained further insight into Torey Adamcik while investigating by conducting a telephone interview with Brian Draper, who revealed some disturbing details about Torey's personality.
Did Torey ever show you any knives that he collected or kept at his house?
Yeah, I think he probably had like 4 or 5 knives in his closet, and he used to show them to me.
Hey Brian, did he ever talk to you about like mutilating animals or things like that?
Yeah, he used to talk about how he used to kill cats. I'd be hanging out with him wherever, and he'd take his cat and he'd like choke his cat, you know what I mean, a little bit. He's like, watch this. And I'm like, okay. He said that he killed the cat by, he buried it inside the ground except its head was exposed, and he ran over it with a lawnmower or whatever.
Torey's mother, Shannon, has written a book about her son's case called The Guilty Innocent, which takes readers behind the scenes of the trial. She argues that the prosecutors were more concerned with public opinion than the truth, and that her son's defense team, which had never argued a murder case before, lacked the necessary experience to effectively defend him. In 2010, Cassie's family launched a civil claim against the District of Idaho, arguing that Brian and Torey had long posed a threat to others and that the school had been negligent in failing to notice. However, the civil court, along with the state Supreme Court, dismissed their claim, stating that the actions of the pair were not foreseeable. The devastation caused by Cassie Jo Stoddart's murder is both irreparable and immeasurable. The day Cassie was found in her aunt and uncle's house, her family left and never returned. The police assisted in cleaning up the crime scene and arranged temporary accommodation, but the family couldn't bring themselves to go back inside the home. They have made repeated attempts to sell the house but have been unsuccessful in finding a buyer. Cassie's devastated family has fought tirelessly, not only seeking justice, but also striving to ensure that Cassie, who was bright, funny and hard-working, will never be forgotten. Additionally, the Q Crime channel offers numerous other captivating cases for you to explore. Don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated with Q Crime Story videos every day. Farewell for now, and we eagerly anticipate your presence in our future videos.